Hello everyone and welcome to Mystical Fighter for the Sega Mega Drive. It's a fairly orthodox beat 'em up with a few interesting features. We play as this long-haired kabuki warrior of no relation to the Xbox game, and we control pretty much like every other beat 'em up character. And there I go getting hit by the first enemy. There is one major difference that sets this guy apart from the rest though. In nearly every 2D beat 'em up, moving directly into the enemies lets you grapple them, but in this one we can just pick them up entirely. Because of this, throws play a much bigger part in this game than they do in most beat 'em ups. As you just saw, we can stop an enemy dead in its tracks if we time our punches well enough, and that's what these guys are here to teach you. These little imp creatures are best defeated by punching them right as they jump at you. They often appear in large numbers, so trying to go on the offensive can be a pretty bad idea. Most enemies can be stopped like this when they charge toward us, but we do have to have very precise timing. These guys are fairly the same as the first enemy we fought. They do have a little bit more going for them in the range department though. It's still possible to knock them out of their charge with the punch, but it is a bit more difficult. Oh yeah, and you can do this, which is pretty much my favorite thing about the game entirely. These little imp guys start appearing in larger numbers and different varieties, which can make timing or punching to push them back a little more difficult. That does make it pretty satisfying when you succeed, though. This music is pretty banging. So pretty much every enemy in this game has an attack where they charge directly at you. Pretty much every single one of them. And this way, the game encourages evasion a lot more directly than most 2D beat 'em ups. It lets you know right from the start you need to be able to move in 3 dimensions or you're screwed. Not that a subtle approach is any less valid. So at many points in the game, there are little secret areas often just hidden behind doors that you would assume were part of the scenery. Also, picking up food not only heals us, but it can also increase our health bar's maximum length, which I think is pretty neat. These scrolls we're picking up enable us to use special attacks similar to Golden Axe, and they stack, which means the more we get, the more powerful an attack we can perform. However, just like in Golden Axe, the further we progress in the game, the less useful the scrolls become. I skipped a little bit further ahead to show you guys this new enemy. They're very hard to attack directly because they have the highest range of any of the normal enemies in the game. As you might have caught just there though, they stop for about a fraction of a second right before they swing their sword, so if you're confident in your timing, you can totally stop them. It's worth noting that in the co-op mode of the game, you can pick up and throw your partner as well. It doesn't hurt him, and in addition, it's a much safer way to attack bosses. There I go getting hit by the most basic enemy again. This is the point where the game decides to throw in the imps with the normal enemies, which as you can imagine is much more hazardous. It forces you to use a combination of both throws and punches instead of relying on just one. Because no matter how good your timing is, you're not going to be able to stop the imps leaping at you and those guys charging at you both at once. And the imps can't be thrown, so it is absolutely necessary to use a combination of both. That attack really never gets old. I suppose something else somewhat different this game does is that it doesn't scroll nearly as much as most beat 'em ups. That doesn't really affect the gameplay though. Whenever the screen gets darker, that's a surefire sign that a boss is approaching. Let's use our scroll right here. It's not going to do very much damage, but you know, we have it sitting there, we might as well use it. So this boss has 2 attacks. He can pounce at us and he has a projectile, but the projectile can only really hurt us if we stand right in front of it. He's pretty much the embodiment of the first stage. The idea is to stay as far away from him as possible and just move around him when he tries to pounce. He has a cooldown time, so to speak, right after he attacks, and that's when it's safe to go on the offensive. He also roars right before he's about to pounce. So his attacks are fairly well telegraphed, and he's pretty easy to take out once you figure out what's going on. It still ensures that the first stage gets across the idea that you need to be able to evade enemies if you want to get anywhere. Ironically though, he can be a little bit easier than the stage itself, because he often does not pounce very far. I'm not sure why that is. This game also has a few weapons based around its design, such as the fan right here. And in order to catch it when it flies back toward us, we need to time our punches properly, and there it goes. So that's Mystical Fighter. It's not incredibly unique, but it does have fun music, an interesting throwing mechanic, and it puts equal emphasis on both grappling and melee.